The best of money matters. Under the radar.
You're listening to Money FM 89.3, and it's now time for Under the Radar with me, Chua Tian Tian. Now, from a metal shop to an automotive giant, we're going to go on an adventure today to look at how carmaker Peugeot made history in the 21st century and how it intends to charge ahead. Now, founded in 1810 in the midst of the Industrial Revolution by Jean-Frederic and Jean-Pierre II Peugeot, the company came about when the Peugeot family transformed its hydraulic mill into a steel mill. Now, with the steel mill, various branches of the family started expanding into manufacturing to produce a wide range of products, all based on steel. Now, think along the lines of tools, springs, umbrellas, wheels, corset frames, watch pieces, bicycles, and even more. Now, years went by, and then came a family member called Armand Peugeot, who is crucial to the entire story. Now, someone who was fascinated by engineering, Armand Peugeot came out with the first Peugeot-branded automotive vehicle in 1889, and that's a steam-driven, non-commercialized three-wheeler, which sowed the seeds for the modern-day Peugeot. Now, fast forward to the 2020s, Peugeot and Fiat Chrysler Automobile merged to form Stellantis in 2021, becoming the world's third largest automaker by vehicle sales. Today, Peugeot is set to offer the widest electric vehicle lineup of any European mainstream brand, covering all needs from urban cars to commercial vehicles. But how has Peugeot's positioning changed over the centuries, particularly post-merger? Also, how is Peugeot as a brand doubling down on the electrification trend, especially with the discontinuation of its 508 model to make way for EVs? Lots of questions, and joining me on the line is Linda Jackson, CEO of Peugeot. Linda, welcome.
Thank you, and it's a great pleasure to be here.
Great to have you join us. And Linda, we've briefly talked about Peugeot as an automotive brand under Stellantis. It is the world's third largest automaker by vehicle sales, Stellantis that is, and the firm is also set to offer the widest electric vehicle lineup of any European mainstream brand. So let's hear from you, Linda. How would you describe Peugeot's value proposition, business model, and also where it fits against the Stellantis business portfolio?
No, you're absolutely right. I mean, we sell, just to put it in context, we sell around about 1.1 million cars every year, including commercial vehicles, so our vans. And we represent about 1/5 of Stellantis volumes and 1/3 in Europe. So, as you quite rightly say, an important part to play in Stellantis. And, you know, we sort of are very, very, in Europe particularly, but also in the other markets outside of Europe, we want to be a leader in electric, and we want to be a sort of front runner in those markets that are also starting to really move in electric. And that's why, as you probably know, is that we have the widest electric range of any European manufacturer. So it doesn't matter whether you want a small car, a medium car, an SUV, or a commercial vehicle, we can offer you that in electric. So that was very important for us. And I think we really, in 2024, for example, launched 5 new cars that were electric. So this means that in Europe, for example, we're the leader in small vehicles in electric, we're the leader in light commercial vehicles. And of course, now we're going to attack the medium size. So this is the sort of positioning, if you like, in terms of our size and our importance to Stellantis.
I see. Now, Linda, let's talk about Peugeot through the years. Earlier, we talked about how the automaker started out in the 1800s as a metal shop. It is now seen as a leader in innovation and electrification in the automotive space. So, I know you briefly mentioned about positioning earlier, but how has the firm's positioning changed over the years, particularly after that merger with Fiat Chrysler Automobile? Because I know you underwent a brand refresh in 2021 to put its upmarket positioning across. So tell us more about that.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. So in 2021, I mean, we'd always been working a little bit before then, to be honest with you, to move the brand up market. But 2021 really was an important year for us, because what we decided to do was to really make sure that we got a very, very sharp message about Peugeot, that we integrated technology and innovation, because that's super important for our customers and Peugeot. And really that gives value to our brand. And we did that by 2 things, really. First of all was we said, okay, we've got three values. And our first value is about what we call a word allure. So very powerful attraction, beautiful. And that's really all about design, because we want, and we are, to be honest with you, design, exterior and interior are the two most important reasons that people choose a Peugeot. So we really want to be at the forefront of design. The second value is about emotion, and that's all about the pleasure to drive, and that's about the interior. And a particular feature of technology for Peugeot interior is called the iCockpit, which is all about how you're cocooned. And the third one is about excellence. And this is all about, again, going back to technology, innovation. And just to give you one example, on our latest SUV, our medium-sized SUV, it's called a 3008, we're offering a range up to 700 kilometers, which is best in class. So if you like, that sort of encapsulates everything. And to sort of put the cherry on the cake, we also decided to change the badge, the logo, to have something that was, if you like, a little bit thinking about the past, but with very, very forward thinking. So sharpen 2021 to make it a very easy brand to understand.
So speaking of positioning, well, Linda, we've got an article by Electrive out in May 2024, citing French portal Automotive, and it said that Peugeot is reportedly working on an electric mid-size saloon to succeed the Peugeot 508 and to compete with the Tesla Model 3. Do you think, though, Tesla is close enough to be considered as your competitor? And are you eventually moving towards a full EV lineup? And if so, any targets in terms of that timeline?
Well, I think it goes back. I'm not going to say whether we're chasing Tesla. To be honest with you, we are in a very, very competitive market. And I don't choose one particular brand and say, oh, I'm following that one. What I need to do is make sure that I've got something that's going to be super attractive and that I can, A, keep my very loyal customers, but also grab customers from everybody else. So I think it goes back to what I was saying is what's important for Peugeot to stand out, because I would put it a slightly different way about Tesla or whoever they are, is that there are many, many manufacturers coming on into the EV market. And what stands out for Peugeot is our design, because you could say that there's a little bit of a sea of sameness. Many of the vehicles look the same. So the fact that we can stand out with our design is super important. So if you like, I think going back to those values, that's clearly about, strong design, but it's also about the excellence of our technology. And are we going 100% electric? Well, I think the very fact that we've got the widest range of any European manufacturer says that we can offer our customers electric vehicles across whichever vehicle they particularly want. But at the same time, we talk about electric, but also there are still customers who haven't made that decision yet. And we also, because we have what we call multi-energy platforms, can also offer a hybrid, multi-hybrid, mild hybrid type vehicle to them as well. So if you like, we can help them on that transition. But yes, of course, we're going towards electric, but we have to follow the customers.
Now, speaking of which, don't mind me sidetracking since we're on the topic of hybrids and electrification. We've seen the proposed merger of Honda and Nissan in December last year to better compete against Chinese EV makers. They have had a stronghold in hybrid vehicles. So how would you assess their industry position in the EV industry, and how would that complicate matters for Peugeot?
Well, I think this goes back to how confident are you in your brand? And I think you've got to be super confident and this is one of the reasons, to be honest with you, one of the major reasons that we really sharpened the brand back in 2021, because we need to be very clear about what we represent. But, I've been in this industry many, many years. And I remember, when we said, the Japanese are coming into the market and we're all going to be super, super worried about that. And of course, they're great vehicles, but we all survived. Then the Koreans came in and we said exactly the same thing. And now the Chinese are arriving. So I think we have to be, as a brand, you need to be very confident in your brand and assume that you've got the right ingredients to be able to survive. And that's, for us, is about design, it's about innovation, it's about technology. But, the very fact that you've got examples like Honda, Nissan, and maybe others that will arrive shows how competitive this market is and how all manufacturers are looking for ways to be sustainable within this market.
Linda, I believe Stellantis as a whole saw a disappointing first half for 2024, though the numbers for the individual brands were not known. At that point in time, I think the media attention was on Maserati, but what's the situation for Peugeot, and how far is it an earnings driver for Stellantis?
Well, it goes back to what I said right at the very beginning. When you are representing 1/3 in Europe and 1/5 worldwide, it's inevitable that you're a bit of a powerhouse for Stellantis. And I think, certainly for Peugeot in 2024, if I were to describe the year, we held our volume vaguely, round about stable, round about the 1.1 million cars and commercial vehicles versus the prior year. And that was in a year when we were, if you like, in a transformation stage with our products, because we were introducing new products, so 5 new electric vehicles. We were introducing the replacement for one of our best sellers, the 3008, a mid-sized SUV. We were introducing mild hybrid. So inevitably, you have a little bit of a changeover as you go through. And therefore, we were stable in volume, which is why now going into 2025 has to be, with all of the products we've got, has to be the year of performance. So I think, for us, it was a stable year, very similar volumes to the prior year. But now 2025, we really want to take off in this, as you quite rightly say, very competitive market. But we've got all the tools to be able to do that.
You talk about 2024 being a stable year. Going into 2025, what do you think will be your key engines of growth? That's one. And how do you intend to navigate short-term headwinds, let's say the global tariff environment, so to speak?
Well, I mean, I think what's going to help us moving forward is a little bit of what I just said, is the fact that we're moving into 2025 with all of the assets, the tools, the products that we need. So we have the complete EV lineup. But we have the advantage versus some manufacturers as well, which we also, as I say, have mild hybrid, plug-in hybrid that we can offer our customers. So, not everybody has decided to make the move to electric vehicles. So we need to make sure that we've got good offers for them, which of course also are on the way to protecting the CO2, reducing the CO2. So I think that's the first major thing, is that we have the products to be able to move. And then I think what you need to be in this very chaotic market is it's very chaotic.
Yes,
changes it's very competitive. You need to be agile. So you need to be able to really look at your market, each market that you're in, and actually look at the competition. Do you need to adjust? And you're literally doing that day by day, month by month. So you need to be very streamlined in terms of how you make decisions. So I think they're the really important things that we need to do. And as I say, have confidence in what you're able to deliver. But you're absolutely right. It's going to be a bit of a roller coaster, I think. But then again, the automotive business has always been a little bit like that. And like any industry, you have to adapt. So, it's going to be fun. It's going to be a challenge. But I think we've got the right ingredients to be able to succeed.
If I were to try my luck over here, and it's only if it's convenient with you, Linda, how would you assess the global tariff environment, the geopolitical situation, or do you think this is a natural course of action across different business cycles that you'll see so long as you're in the business for long enough?
Well, I've been in the business long enough, and I've seen tariffs, I've seen quotas, I've seen many things.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, I'm more of a person that says we all need to have a level playing field. And if the level playing field is fair, then afterwards, we all have the ability to be able to compete. I think one of the big challenges for European manufacturers is particularly on electric vehicles, and it's about reducing the cost of our vehicles, because we know that, for example, our Chinese manufacturers do have an advantage in terms of their cost base. That's a well-known fact. That's not a Stellantis thing. That's a well-known fact. So we are really looking at it from 2 points of view. One is clearly for us, for Peugeot, for Stellantis, we want to make sure that we reduce our costs, be very cost effective in terms of our manufacturing costs. That's super important so that we can be competitive on the market. But also what we have done for Stellantis, as you're probably aware, we've actually joined with a Leap Motors, which is a Chinese manufacturer.
Yes.
Which means that we have a sales and marketing agreement, commercial agreement with Leap Motors, so that they can sell So we have a 51% share in them in the sales and marketing part, which is outside of China, which means that we can also compete against the Chinese. So if you like, we've got it on those two fronts. Afterwards, you talk about tariffs and you can talk about the States, you can talk about China, you can talk about Europe. That's the environment we have to manage in. And at the same time, in Europe, we have very, very strong goals for, and I know Singapore is also moving very, very quickly on electric in terms of meeting CO2, which we also have to make sure that we're selling a very high percentage of our vehicles. So this is why I say it's a roller coaster and it's a challenge, because it's a little bit like playing three-dimensional chess. So you've got to manage all of those things at the same time.
Wow. Two-dimensional chess is hard enough, let alone three. But Linda, let's begin to wrap up by talking about what's next more broadly for Peugeot and its focus on innovation. Peugeot is huge on innovation, as you mentioned, and it celebrated 20 years of virtual reality in April 2024. So in January 2024, it talked about plans to use ChatGPT in cars and vans. So tell us more about how you intend to drive business with innovation and the initiatives taken by Peugeot in this regard.
Yeah, and I think this is where we go to one of our key innovations and one of our key differentiators for Peugeot, which is let's get into the inside of our cars. And this is what we call the iCockpit. And this story about the iCockpit started about 12 years ago. And there's about 12 million customers driving around, hopefully very happy, in their Peugeot with an iCockpit. And this was all designed around the eyes, the hands, and the body. And it's all about having a very small steering wheel, which is very agile. It's about having a cluster, so the instrument cluster, directly in front of you so you can see, you're not obstructed when you look out the window. And then it's also about having a driving position that means it's very ergonomically proven. So this was a level of technology that we evolve literally every time we introduce a new vehicle. So when we've introduced the new 3008, we've introduced, of course, a new iCockpit version with a large 21-inch panoramic floating screen that people can look at. And of course, we talk then about the long range, the 700 kilometers. So innovation for us is very much about, we say that pleasure drives progress. So we're not into putting gadgets or gimmicks, but we want to put technology in that really makes life easier. So the next, to give you a little peek of what could come next or what will come next, is that we're going to look at the steering wheel and we're going to say, maybe we replace that and we come up with a new evolution of the iCockpit and we move to what we call is the hypersquare, which is in fact a little bit like gaming. So it's like a rectangular steering wheel. So no longer round. Wow, exactly.
Yes.
And this is going to be with a technology which is called steer-by-wire, which is an electronic link with the suspension. So it's very, very agile. And that will come in cars for Peugeot across the world in about 2 years. So that's the next innovation. So this is about taking the driving experience and making it even more pleasurable. So that's us, innovation. Pleasure drives progress. Super important.
That's a fun question that we have for our listener as well, because I heard Peugeot has the right to name all of its cars with a 3-digit number where the center digit is a numerical 0. Is that the reason why Porsche came up with the 911 instead of the 901? And what is the significance behind your naming convention then?
Right. Okay. So this actually, it's absolutely true that we have a naming which has 3 letters or 4 letters potentially, and there was a story that it actually went back in time to when originally you used to have to start a car with a crank, at the front of the wheel, and therefore there was a hole, and people thought that was the reason why there was a 0 in the midst, but no, it just goes back to the Peugeot 201, which is in the mists of time. And what this means is that we decided that the first letter, so the 2 or the 3 now, for example, in 3008, means that is the size of the vehicle. So the bigger the letter, the bigger the vehicle. So, a 208 is a small vehicle, a 308 and so on. Then the 0 is really the central 0 is, if you like, there to separate the 2. And then we've got the 8 at the end currently, which is the latest generation. So to give you a lovely example, we are in the World Endurance Championship, so Le Mans, the 24 hours of Le Mans, and we have a hypercar. and it's called the 9X8. 9, because 9 is all about sporty cars, and it goes back to the 904, which we won Le Mans in. The X is because it is a four-wheel drive, and the 8 is because that's the latest generation. So we use it even in our hypercars, as well as the cars that you and I could drive on the road. So that's the story.
Keep us excited as well. You talked about rectangular steering wheels. We talked about the numbers in the car. The bigger the number, the bigger the car and the front digit. So what's next for Peugeot? Would you have cars with bigger numbers at the front?
For bigger numbers. No, I mean, I think in terms of the cars that we will introduce, they'll always be the ones around where is the biggest potential for us, where is the opportunity for us. So I think really where we're moving forward is not necessarily to have more and more cars in our lineup. It's more about making sure we've got the technology, for example, like on the Hypersquare. But I think it's also important that I go back to the fact that we think the design is super important. And I don't want us to enter into this world of the sea of sameness where we all look the same. I want us to stand out. So design will always be very strong. Technology will be strong. And it goes back to, I think really we want to invent another future, because if we're all going to be driving in the same cars, it all gets a bit boring. So let's make a different future and make it more exciting and more fun to drive, more pleasure.
Right, a fun way to drive indeed. Thanks so much, Linda, for the insights. That was Linda Jackson, CEO at Peugeot. Thank you so much for joining us.
Before acting on the information on Money FM, please consider if it's suitable for your own investment objectives, financial situation, and risk tolerance. To listen to more great interviews, download our podcasts at audio.sg or download the audio app. That's AWEDIO, audio at the App Store and Google Play.